In the quiet seaside town of Bournemouth, a local court has handed down a judgment with consequences far beyond Dorset. Livia Tossici-Bolt, a retired medical scientist and anti-abortion campaigner, was convicted for breaching a Public Spaces Protection Order, PSPO, specifically a buffer zone around a British Pregnancy Advisory Service clinic. Her crime, standing with a sign that reads, "Here to talk if you want." She was found guilty on 2 counts of breaching the order, but while the sentence was light, a conditional discharge, the implications have been anything but. The case has now become a litmus test for the state of free expression in Britain. It's attracted the attention of Vice President, the gerbil, J.D. Vance, triggering a diplomatic eyebrow rise from the US State Department and exposing ideological fault lines between allies who once claimed to share a special relationship. The Bournemouth clinic was granted a buffer zone in 2022 after years of reported harassment, over 500 incidents according to BPAS, and under the Public Order Act 2023, these zones prohibit behaviour that might influence or distress clinic users within 150 metres. The district judge, Orla Austin, was unequivocal. This was not about abortion rights, but about breaching a democratically mandated zone. She acknowledged Tossici-Bolt's sincerity, but noted her refusal to relocate, despite claiming her message was about loneliness, not abortion. The judge stated that freedom of expression under Article 10 of the ECHR is not absolute and must be balanced against the rights of others. Put plainly, the court ruled that standing in the precise location mattered more than the placid content of her sign. But content, it seems, is exactly what Washington focused on. In the United States, specifically its newly configured administration, the Bureau of Democracy, Human Rights and Labor, a subdivision of the State Department, issued a statement lamenting the verdict. More strikingly, J.D. Vance, the vice president and the emblem of Trumpist revival, personally invoked Tossici-Bolt's case as proof that free speech is in retreat across Europe. This is remarkable. A local British public order case, governed by specific UK legislation, has been reframed by American conservatives as part of a broader ideological clash, one that pits so-called liberal tyranny against Christian values. This is not diplomacy, this is doctrine, and it signals something new. US moral leadership, once focused on autocracies, now turns its lens on Westminster. In short, Bournemouth is the new Budapest, at least in Vance's global sermon. But there's another player, the Alliance Defending Freedom, the ADF International, whose UK wing has seen a remarkable financial expansion, supporting Tossici-Bolt legally and logistically. Their involvement is not incidental. ADF was instrumental in the Dobbs case that turned Roe versus Wade. Now, they export their litigation strategy abroad, framing local laws, even democratically enacted ones, as infringements on conscience. And their critics, including the Southern Poverty Law Centre, label them a hate group. But they also have strategic power, they are wealthy, and they're globally networked. Through ADF, and now with the US State Department's imprimatur, the case of one Bournemouth retiree is converted into a battle standard in the global culture war. And this matters because it risks reconfiguring UK domestic law into contested terrain for foreign-backed ideological campaigns. The political implications are stark. Kemi Badenoch has called the US intervention more commentary than reality while defending Britain's liberal values. But the timing couldn't be worse. The UK is in tense negotiations with the US over these over the tariffs. At the moment, at 10% on British exports. It could get worse, it could get better. And while officials insist this case has no bearing on those talks, one cannot ignore the symbolic overlap. An American administration increasingly animated by Protestant Christian nationalism now sees the UK as ideologically deviant, not progressive, but persecuting. Moreover, the narrative that Britain criminalises prayer or offers of conversation risks becoming a stick with which conservatives beat our judicial independence, particularly when headlines in the US reduced this to a woman prosecuted for saying hello. On one level, this was a simple legal breach. A woman crossed a line she was told not to. But on another level, we're now witnessing a struggle between lawful order and libertarian absolutism, between public safety and theatrical victimhood. In the age of the gerbil, in the age of J.D. Vance and exported cultural crusades, even Bournemouth becomes a global power keg. If Britain is to defend its own free speech, it must also defend its right to regulate it. The judgment against Tossici Bolt was not a moral indictment, it was a legal boundary being enforced. Now, you may not approve of that legal boundary, but the fact that it's there makes it very difficult to ignore. And as the US exports its culture wars, Britain must be careful not to import its chaos.